So, I have pretty much the coolest job title in all history. Professional DM isn't just a tagline for me, it's actually an announcement of my full time job and what I do. And so when people boggle a little bit at statements that I make, like I run 300 games a year and 8 games a week of Dungeons and Dragons, I just sort of shrug it off because it's just sort of part of the gig to me. But today I've been asked by Memphis Stig how I accomplish the prep for all of these games logistically. And so I'm going to teach you the 5 steps that I use to run all of these games without it being a great big burden. My name is Timothy, and so some people do call me Tim, and I would like to offer my thanks to Matt Laser, Persiflage, Wonderwoon, David Mosley, and Spencer, my 10 class supporters here on YouTube, who decided that this topic was worth exploring. And so if you enjoy this topic, then you have them to thank for this sujet du jour. When Memphis Stig asked this question, I must admit I laughed out loud at the comment, "Do you even sleep?" Yes, don't worry Memphis, I definitely get a full night's sleep-ish on most days-ish, whenever it's possible. But between this and YouTube, I will admit I am a pretty busy guy, and not to mention the fact that I live in a household of 14, which takes up just a tidge of my time also, no matter how awesome the other members of my house are. But let's jump right into it. The first step to preparing for my next session is to reflect on the one that happened previously. I do that in a couple of different steps, and there's a video on the after action report sheet that I like to fill out in order to identify opportunities for improvement. But also, as I'm going through my process, because I use the XP system and not the milestone system, I, every week after my game, go through and delineate the different things that were worth experience points, calculate the details of those, and post them out there for my players to see. I do the same thing by going through and posting the loot log, and as part of my preparation for the next session and my reflection, I write a recap, preferably using the grab and invite method that pushes me towards being prepared for next week. Having that recap to push forward with is super important for me. I don't feel like recaps are best left to the party, even though it's a great way to gauge the kind of stuff that they were paying attention to. They don't know where the story is necessarily going, and the grab and invite method of writing your own recap gives you the opportunity to help them set up for success in the next session. So I try pretty hard to make sure that I'm following that and coming up with the right kind of information so that they not only know what just happened last week, but also can remember back to previous happenings that might be of value and use in the session to come. And that's just high value and low time frame prep, and it helps to cement what happened just a little bit further into my own mind, as well as remind me at the beginning of next session exactly where we left off. Next, I like to prepare a script and a list of secrets and complications for the week that's upcoming. I've heard people complain before about the idea of scripts being a bad thing to have, because if you have a plan for what is going to happen in your session, then you're a terrible DM and you're railroading. But it's only railroading if you railroad. And if you don't have a plan for the session, then essentially you're improvising everything. I like to prepare to improvise, not just improvise to improvise for the sake of it. It's only railroading if you won't let the players go their own direction. Having a script of what you think is going to happen is not the same as forcing people along that script. So to me, writing down what the first thing that the players are going to act on, which the grab and invite method is pushing them right into the action of that specific thing, and then predicting the next couple of steps of where I think they're going to go, helps me to streamline my prep and focus that preparation upon things that are actually going to matter. And you know what? There are definitely times that the party chooses to go a completely different direction and throws it out. In fact, there are times when I will ask them what they're going to do next session. They'll give me an answer. I'll prepare for an entire couple of sessions in that direction, and then they'll choose to go in a completely other direction without any kind of notice whatsoever. Sorry, trauma. Suffice to say, generally, adventures are better with a plan than without. After I've got my script worked out, I move on to the secrets and complications, which are locationless items of lore or information that will be useful to the party, and or locationless or vaguely location specific actions or creatures or encounters or scenes that I can drag and drop into the adventure whenever it's necessary to provide a consequence for something that happened, or to change the pacing of the scenario, or to up the tension in any given circumstance. The secrets and complications are really good things to have not baked in to specific locations in your adventure. Obviously, it's important that you do have secrets baked into certain locations, lore that can be found in certain situations. It's important to have, say, your specific random encounters and the encounters for inside your rooms worked out in order to give you the best opportunity to foreshadow them properly and to give good story. But having them a list of 10 items that are disconnected from all of that gives you the tools that you need to adjust on the fly the various things that are coming up that need to be adjusted. So to me, that's just really high value prep, and I place a premium on making sure that I have those two lists ready to roll in addition to my script. My third step of prep is to actually do the prep portion of preparing those things that I believe are going to be necessary for my next session according to my script. So that might be maps, it could be minis, it could be the stats of monsters, both reviewed and having them on hand. It could be names of NPCs that are going to be encountered, as well as some quick personality traits and maybe the quirk or accent that I'm going to use to portray them. It can be handouts that specifically are going to be put in front of the players. Those things that we think of traditionally as prep are the third step of my process, and that can vary how long it will take for me to prepare depending upon whether I'm running this game live or online, or whether I have a specific map or need to go hunting for one, or heavens forbid build one, which is not my personal best skill. I'd much rather use somebody else's amazing art than try and create it myself, because I am no artist by any stretch of the imagination, no matter what my wife tells you about my stick figures. The fourth and fifth steps of prepping for my game are a little more ephemeral and a little less tied to the specific individual moment of preparing for the next game. One is to be constantly collecting tools that are useful to me personally in how I run games. Every DM is different, and everybody needs different tools to be able to find the most successful table that they can create. I've got a couple of different lists that there should be cards popping up for, of awesome online tools for busy DMs like yourself that can help you to prepare less by being more prepared. Having those tools on hand in an easy to access folder for me online is super useful. Having books of random tables and cards that save me time and other items that are physical that I have behind my DM screen is the kind of thing that prepares me in that front. I used to use 3D printed condition rings and a 3D printed initiative tower that I found really useful. Though they're definitely not necessary, they can be one way to speed things up and help you to feel more prepared and to run a smoother game at the table. So finding the tools that are most useful to you and to your group at your table is a constant quest and a constant fourth step in the preparation process. That can be subsystems and house rules too, is another great one on there. And nowadays, AI tools for summarizing information or for providing you with random lists of different things. Use whatever it takes that fits your personal set of morals and your personal beliefs and needs at the table, and you're going to be doing pretty well. The fifth thing that I do as part of my prep that might be more like life advice for preparing rather than specifically an action that I take is that I set a timer for my prep time. I have it scheduled out, I have it put into my calendar, it's work for me, and so it's something that I am planning on using for that specific purpose, and having a timer set helps to ensure that I get everything done. You do more and you are better when you have constraints. So setting a 50-minute work block with 5 minutes of planning before and 5 minutes of reflection after is a great way for me personally to ensure that that hour of prep is used as well as possible. And at the end of it, I can decide whether or not I need another hour on this specific game's prep, or whether or not the hour or 2 or 3 that I've already put in is sufficient, and that way I can move forward. The other thing is that for me, if it's not in my planner, it doesn't get done. And so by having a time that is specifically for my prep, setting a timer to accomplish it, and having it already planned and in my planner, I know that I'll do the thing, and I know how much I can get done in that time frame, and that just helps to make the entire process run more smoothly. Thanks again to Memphis Stig for the question, and to the Tank Class supporters for letting me talk about it today. And if you'd like to boss me around and decide what I talk about, consider joining their numbers. But thank you very much for watching all the way to the end and helping the algorithm to decide to send this to other people. I appreciate you, and thank you very much as always, and happy adventuring.